Mother Nature can be unforgiving. She cares not who you are, so the weak and the strong are each just as susceptible to her whims. Keep your raincoat handy because you're gonna need it as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 14 Pro Class. And you'll see it all live here on RaceSpot TV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ewan O'Leary. Behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. Well, we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. They might need a cruise ship out there. It is very, very wet on the track as we have now entered MotorLand Aragon on the schedule. Ewan?
Yeah, one of the perhaps more unusual circuits on this schedule, I would say, and made even more difficult by the fact that it is going to rain at some point, and indeed with varying intensities throughout the course of the four classes we have over the course of the next 2 weeks. It's a rather rural part of northeastern Spain. Actually, this circuit it takes place on, and not a place in the world, certainly not in Europe, where you'd expect to see too much rain, to be honest. But it does rain, of course, occasionally, and it will do for these four classes this week. So, yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a big challenge, though. Expect to see some big time gaps, and those who have practiced well will go well, and those, of course, who can adapt well as well will do well these 2 weeks.
No doubt, changeability and adaptability will be a huge factor. 30 points separating our top two, Townend and Rodriguez. Arthur Chan is then another 90 points back to round out our top three, and then another 80 points back to Isabel. So you're seeing some pretty decent sized gaps once you get past those first two. And then it closes up once again for the battle, essentially all the way from 8th up to that 5th position, maybe even 4th, really, as it's only 10 points between Isabel and Peterson. So drivers are finding themselves with some interesting fights here as we come into the latter half of the season. As we mentioned, it is already quite wet on the track for this outer layout version in qualifying. Looks like we might not have the rain for that much longer, though. So that'll make it interesting as what has become an extremely soaked track. I mean, look at how heavily it's coming down, Ewan, to suddenly a drying track as soon as they go to racing conditions.
Yeah, and it's the puddles really you've got to worry about looking at on the racetrack, really. It makes it very difficult indeed to deal with when you've got just so much water on the racetrack. And these times are only getting slower actually in qualifying, so this order will be how they start the race, but everyone's going to have to keep an eye on the radar. Everybody's going to have to keep an eye on the racetrack and where the puddles are, but I'm glad to say that and see that we're using the best layout that Aragon has to offer, missing out the chicane at turns 12, 13, 14, 15, which would normally be there. I think it really doesn't help overtaking chances, actually, including that chicane. So I'm glad we've gotten rid of that. We run right the way down to the end of the long back straight and in towards that very fast final corner instead, which should provide for good racing. But it's really, so far, firstly, going to be about survival. As you see the session move forward and the track change, indeed a period of drying seems to have happened as well between the two sessions.
Yeah, it looks like they've maybe skipped ahead a minute or two here, and rain has now stopped, so drivers will have to decide what tires to be on when they start this one. This is the pro class, so they expect a lot out of these drivers, and I imagine they're going to hand them quite a bit of difficulty. Let's take a look at our pole lap as well, I believe, as drivers are heading out for our warm-up session. That'll be fascinating because I did see some very interesting lines out with those puddles, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have to change lines, and we'll see all of that here on board with Jesse Line here. As we come down in towards turn number one, first of all, on this 55.9. Already you can see on the start finish straight here, moves to the middle of the road, sort of angle off this corner a bit more nicely. not touching that curb on the outside line. Now just being patient. This is really patience required through turns 2 and 3 actually. Same if it's really, really hot actually at this circuit, but the same applies in the wet. Just again, patience getting on the throttle. Don't go too wide there. This is really difficult, this section, turn 4 and 5. Expect to see spin through here even in the dry. Just see Lion there braking halfway through the corner there, a little bit more than normal, just so he didn't end up on the curb in the AstroTurf, which would have pulled him off. Then through turn 6, which is a little bit easier in that sense, but you're still turning while braking here, turn 7, and just look how easily he takes it on the way into the sharp right-hander there. Very, very slowly compared to the dry conditions. Then over the top of the hill here and down the other side, so water running away from them a little bit here, so it's a little bit drier until they get to the bottom here. Look at that on the outside, by the way. Good job that's not the racing line, because there's a river congregating out there. And then they get back onto the flatlands, and again more puddles. Outside line for line, you can see that's not the line in the dry, but it's the better line for getting traction and getting grip in these very wet conditions. Just on dancing on the edge of that curb and the white line there as well, which he was taking a risk with very much. Look how much he's turning as well through turn 11, which is really odd, and turn 12. Not really a corner normally, but just making sure he doesn't get pulled off to the side of the circuit, and then moves over to the inside here just to get a little bit of dry tarmac onto his tyres before he brakes here. It's very, very dry on the inside of the circuit compared to the outside, so that's why he's taken that such strain line. And you can actually take a double apexed final corner here, so that's why he did that. And then out of the final turn, he brings them to the line to set that pole lap. But very, very strange lines. It's about finding the dry spots and avoiding the curbs, at least in conditions as wet as these.
And as you'd expect, the wet conditions did separate the drivers a fair bit more than we're used to. 0.4 of a second we're seeing, or at least close to that, for the pole time. Jesse Lyon over the next nearest car, as we got about a minute and a half left here in the warm-up. And as we said, there is still dampness on the track, though the sun is very much out, so it'll probably dry up. Actually, let me see what the temperatures are even currently, because that also will affect things. Looks like about 66 Fahrenheit on the track surface itself. So there you go. The drivers will see it dry up a little bit, but that was definitely not as warm as I expected it to be. As now we take a look at our starting grid. Jesse Lyon with a 55.9, the only driver breaking under 56 in these wet conditions on the pole. Thomas Briggs in second, with Kerry Brooks starting from P3, and Bryce Rodriguez coming from second on the championship, starting fourth on this grid. Blake Townend, championship leader, in fifth, while Thomas Isabel will start in the 6th position. Row 4 has Terrence Tong to the inside. Arthur Chan could be flanking him. Logan Corrado will be starting 9th, and then rounding out the top 10, it is Matthew Siddall. From there, it's Enrico Gregorato in 11th, and Kevin Chokel starting in the 12th position. Michael Patterson in 13th, and Matthew Chokel 14th. Then in row 8, it is Mark Godrowski in 15th and Silver Canny in 16th, with Lee Peterson 17th and David Fernandez in the 18th position. Last few drivers, with Chad Henderson in the 19th spot, sees Chris Braun starting to his outside. Brett Holmes starts 21st, Jonathan Waltman 22nd, and Rich Minkler in the last and 23rd position once we get to the race itself. And again, no guarantees that it will stay this dry throughout this hour-long race, and we have that pit stop to worry about. So you mentioned watching that radar. I have a feeling that's going to be key in pit strategy.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're going to want to go as long as possible here, just in case there's a tyre change required throughout this race, from either dries to wets or wets to dries. Well, it's given the look of this session, it's going to be dries to wets in that case, which we pretty much know about. So you don't want to make normally you can get away with making an early stop if it's, not too early in the race. If you've got crash damage or something, because of the fuel limits we have in this series, you can make it work, although it's not ideal. You definitely can't make it work here. You do not want to be making 2 stops, but that's what some people may end up doing if they're not too careful. So extra caution required on the start, and then just run as long as possible until we get to that wet period in the race, which we think and know is coming, and then you change onto tyres, as well as putting the fuel in required for the remaining of the remaining part of the race at that point.
So when we were in that warm-up, with even the sun out, I noticed it labeled as moderately wet for the track surface. It is now considered lightly wet. That said, every single driver but one is starting on the wet tires. The lone holdout is Brett Holmes from 21st. I guess he's got less to lose back there.
Yeah, he certainly has. And maybe it's wetter underfoot than it looks just by watching this. Where's the spray? I mean, oh, there it is a little bit as they get up to speed. I'm not sure this is really wet tyre conditions, to be honest. And, of course, as you say, Holmes has nothing to lose back there. But, you know, there's so many drivers not involved in the championship. You'd think somebody else might risk it. You'd be surprised how much you can get away with in iRacing in terms of running the dries on the wet tarmac. Although, of course, they won't be warm as we get up to speed here. That will be an early difficulty for him, of course.
Well, there isn't much shade on this track. There could be spots that dry a little bit quicker, as we can see coming up around the final turn. There's just a little bit more spray kicking up, and maybe our perception will change as they get up to speed, because this is not going to kick up that water as much under pacing speeds. Green flag is out. Thomas Briggs on the loud pedal next to Jesse Lyon, trying to overtake him down into turn one from the long way around. Everybody breaking into this first corner. Hopefully they can find grip, and I'm not seeing many accidents behind them at this stage, so looks like everybody has managed this slippery start pretty well.
Yeah, Lyon avoiding the curbs a little bit too much, I think. Now he can get away with it a little bit more in these types of conditions, and his hesitance has lost him second to Bryce Rodriguez as well through this first sector.
So from P1 to P3 in the first few corners, as Kerry Brooks just behind, a little bit of fight between Townend and Isabel for that fifth position. But for the most part, it is pretty quickly single file throughout the pack. No wonder with so little grip out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Further back, by the way, Brett Holmes has dropped to the back of the field and is really struggling out there at the moment. He is 5 seconds behind the driver in front of him. He's going to have to hope this dries up very, very quickly and it starts to pay off, because I'm still pretty astonished, actually, that those dry tyres are struggling so much. It really does not look very wet out there. And as you say, no tree cover around this circuit. It's a very barren landscape around here up in the northeast of Spain. So you'd expect it to be drier than this, but it looks pretty tricky.
Well, and here's where other things change too, because normally we don't talk about having to change tires in this series, but you know, depending on what it is like when you get to that pit stop, you might see other drivers have to take that extra time. I think it's something like 45 seconds stationary to change tires. So that's what Brett Holmes is hoping for, is that everybody else around him will have to spend that extra time, and he will be able to catch up.
Sorry, just in the background there, they were all going off. They followed each other, I'd imagine, coming down into the final corner. Logan Grado lost a couple of places. He's now down to 10th. Terrace Tong just in behind Thomas Isabel. You can see them all weaving around, looking left and right. Gregorato and Arthur Chan side by side as well, as they all pile into turn one. Just seem to follow each other off the road down there at the final corner. Every corner at the moment is an expedition.
Like you said, it is very fast coming to the end of that straight. And so maybe trying to judge that was a little bit more difficult than they thought. Thankfully, tons of paved runoff out there to try and save the car. So they came back on, maybe just having lost a place or two. Back up to Brooks now in fifth place. That's Townend in front of him. Jesse Lyon still sitting in third after losing spots from the pole at the start of this race. This is a slower portion of the track down to Sacacorchos here. A very steep drop into a chicane.
Yeah, turns 8 and 9. This is where the water sort of runs away. You don't see many puddles through here when it is raining because of the elevation. So there's not too much of here at Aragon. Now through the long left-hander afterwards, which is given a new corner, number 10. And this is corner 11. Not really a turn, even in the wet, where it was just about flat out for Jesse Lyon. It bends all the way round towards where turn 12 normally is. They normally get on the brakes about there. There it is, there's the exit of it rather, the chicane, but we run all the way down to the bottom end of the straight here, turn 13, the final corner of this track, and Bryce Rodriguez just gets a little bit closer to Thomas Briggs, with Blake Townend currently putting the pressure on Jesse Lyon. This has big implications for the championship, of course. After last week, Blake Townend and Bryce Rodriguez only separated by 30 points with 3 rounds to go.
A little bit of a peek down the inside. Rodriguez maybe trying to clear himself from the spray of Briggs to get a clearer view, but it is Briggs who goes a bit wide down into turn one. We check out his webcam. Don't see any of his fans watching at this stage, but he does have a towel for all the dampness.
Yep, he does. I mean, it's again, if you weren't with us, by the way, I think it was a couple of rounds ago, was it now, where we saw in the background he had a whole congregation of people watching and supporting him the other week. I think he won that race. So, oh, maybe he didn't. Was that the one he ran out of fuel in? Maybe. I can't remember.
He won the race because I remember us interviewing him afterwards. Also worth noting. Brett Holmes seems to have retired already as we go side by side. Blake Townend on Jesse Lyon. Is he going to lose another spot down through Sacacorchos? He's going to try and defend off the turn, get on the throttle just that little bit sooner. It is a shorter line, but will he have the grip as Townend is going to cut back? But no, he doesn't get the launch.
Yeah, Lyon's got the look of a driver to me who's been practicing in the heavy rain for the last 2 weeks, and in these sort of mixed conditions is not quite as strong as Bryce Rodriguez. Got a better run out of 10 and 11 here, and he's right into the slipstream of Thomas Briggs, who feels the need to defend very late on here. Briggs on the inside in time for turn 13. They almost touch. Oh, at high speed, and Rodriguez has his nose in front. Briggs will get the lead back again, though, on the late brakes inside. He's back into the lead. Townend back to third. Oh, as Bryce Rodriguez cuts the up and under. He's on the inside of the final turn, and he edges him off the circuit. Thomas Briggs all out of shape as he's pushed off the circuit by Bryce Rodriguez.
Great spatial awareness from Briggs. He's going to dive back in, coming down to the apex, finds just enough room. They almost brush once more. Very close and brave fighting considering how little grip there is out there. Once again, he finds himself off. This time, the loss of traction costs him the spot.
Just a wheel or so in the gravel, but this is what the rain creates at this circuit. Normally, it's a very difficult circuit to overtake where you're so focused on your own line that you can never create a side-by-side, but the rain, these mixed conditions are just creating a circuit where you can go side-by-side for corner after corner after corner. And Rodriguez comes out on top. As I said, Townend got past Lyon as well in the background of all of that, so he's up to third, but just as he's making up places, so is his championship rival.
Back down the hill we go, and here is Brett Holmes. Now, I saw him return to the track. I'm not sure if maybe he changed his mind, but he did disconnect briefly. There could have been some technical problems as well behind the scenes. Look at him sliding around here, coming onto the back straightaway as Lyon and Townend are very much finding the limit of grip out there. But their fighting has cost them about 3/4 of a second up to Briggs. There you can see the gap between them now.
And Lyon looks like he's going to have another go into 13 here, the final corner. Is Townend going to defend? It looks like he's in the middle of the road. And a little look from Briggs as well. Townend doesn't necessarily need to defend in the end. Jesse Lyon just waits, bides his time for the moment. Brett Holmes actually has reconnected and got back out there on wet tyres, by the way, so worth the risk. And I thought it would pay out, actually, but seemingly it's still very, very slick, even though there's not actually very much spray being kicked up.
The only one to take the gamble, and the gamble did not pay. Now this top group actually goes back to 5th place as, I think that was Lyon going wide, and indeed, Heath now falls to 5th, and behind them it is about 6.5 to 7 seconds to the next closest car.
Yeah, that's not good for Lyon. I mean, he got on pole with a very good lap in the really wet conditions, and the sooner it rains for him, the better, because he is struggling in these mixed conditions. There he is, just wide through turn one, slides off the circuit, and it's one of the easier passes that Kerry Brooks is going to make this season in that battle. Logan Gredos, meanwhile, back up to 7th, and this group is still massive for about 9th place on backward now.
Yeah, you can see this little tussle between Gregorado and Grotto. And then as we jump back to Siddall, and you're talking about that big group, there you go, Terrence Tong, head of Canny and Chan, fighting for 11th position, coming down the hill once again. Chan has the inside. Last time that worked out earlier for Lyon, at least for a little bit. Let's see if it works out for Chan, and it appears it does.
Well, for now it does, but the exit out of 10 is so important, and through 11 here as well, that you've just, oh dear, you've just got to worry about the back straight, and it's a very, very long way down there. Briggs, meanwhile, takes the lead again, or at least he's side by side with Briggs, Rodriguez at the front of the field, side by side again for the lead. So it's all going on back here as well as at the very front of the field, but it looks like Briggs has got that lead back again.
Did. Passed him down the back straightaway using the slipstream. It is so long back there. Even in the wet, I think that is enough that we could see some of those back and forth battles in this race. So here is how the pass happened. Yeah, he just got a good exit tucked up behind him, and that was enough that he pops out and just breezes past down the straightaway. So he holds the lead. How long will that stay put as Rodriguez continues on our live picture in the bottom, close behind?
Yeah, they're very evenly matched, these two, it looks like. Neither of them seem to have the speed to run away from the other when they get into the lead, and that back straight is such a long drafting tool, effectively. And just to suspect that the leader is very vulnerable every time they come down to the final turn, as Rodriguez has a look down the inside there. Looks like it's exploded in that second group, by the way, as Terence Tong and Sylvester Chani both dropped down the field. There may have been trouble back there in that group from 10th place on backwards, but Rodriguez close again coming out of turn 10. Look at that traction he's got here. As long as he stays out of the curb, he should be fine for a pass for the lead. Meantime, oh, this is Canny getting into Terence Tong. Oh, and it's created a bit of a mini pile-up behind.
The question was, can he make it? No, he cannot, and unfortunately caused quite a bit of issues for those around us. Once again, we go side by side. This time, Rodriguez, though, does not have enough speed. That or Briggs using the side draft to great effect, and coming into the braking will move just a nose ahead. Now, they've got Blake Townend suddenly becoming a part of this group. He has regained now that they've been battling back and forth.
Yeah, he's got the run on both of them here as he comes out the final corner. You suspect Rodriguez is going to have another dive at turn number 1, and this is just an extraordinary battle through 10 minutes of this race. Briggs defends the inside. Oh, and he parks it as well, right in front of Rodriguez, who's still in second place, can't get past. Then Blake Townend, who's in third. Kerry Brooks has caught up as well. Oh, and on the curb, Briggs is going to go wide. He gets away with it, and that's the advantage of these slightly mixed conditions. You can ride the curbs a little bit and get away with it like Briggs did there.
Let's remember that, as he once again goes too deep down into 5, he keeps it on the circuit and he keeps the lead. But all this runoff area can get you incident points, and they still have an incident limit in this race. Drivers need to watch out how much they flirt with those off tracks.
Another look into turn 8. Briggs just defends again, but surely this is going to leave him on toast out of turn 10, and Blake Townend might be able to gain as well. Here comes Rodriguez switching to the inside. They'll be side by side through a very difficult traction zone here. This might be more difficult than you think to actually maintain. Rodriguez is going to try and shove Briggs wide again. Oh, and he only just had space to do that.
They've done that a lot on these corner exits, and so far it's worked out for them. They got to be careful because this can unfold, and it will no longer be a battle for the lead for the pair of them if they make a wrong-footed move. Meanwhile, Briggs down the outside once again, trying to figure out which car he wants to throw his hat in with. Townend is back and forth, uncertain. Is he thinking about 3 wide? No. Deep under braking into the final corner, down to the inside. Rodriguez once again will squeeze Briggs wide. That opens the door for 10, and they are going to go 3 wide this time. They touch, and as they come off the corner, it looks like Townend is going to lead this lap.
Rodriguez had to slow massively to avoid that 3 wide contact, and Kerry Brooks is going to come through as well for the lead. Blake Townend might do the 2-in-1. Briggs on the outside will hold on though. Oh, he just about keeps it on the circuit. Townend gives him a lot of room, and Briggs gets the lead. Rodriguez does not want to give up third place for the moment, and he's still on the inside of Kerry Brooks, who is going to be edged out wide now. Rodriguez slams in front of him, and it's Townend who gets in front of Rodriguez. Remarkably, the only change out of that.
The pro class is supposed to be tested with these conditions, and I gotta say, it is an ultimate test out here. It is any man's game as to who could wind up winning here today. Thomas Briggs still up at the front. Townend now the one in second place as Rodriguez has dropped into third. Brooks still in fourth, and Jesse Lyon, our former pole sitter, is he kind of sitting and waiting back there in P5?
I think he is. I think he's waiting for the really heavy wet conditions where I think he's going to absolutely thrive and overtake all of these guys, to be honest. But it just depends if it's going to be as wet as it was in qualifying, because if it is, as I say, I think he's going to win this race. Townend with a great exit, as long as that curve hasn't just stopped him too much, and it hasn't. He's got a brilliant exit now coming through turn 11, and he's going to be side by side with Briggs. Now, when he was in the situation to make it 3 wide, he decided not to. Will Rodriguez show the same restraint down the back straight?
We'll find out soon enough. He's got a huge run here. He's got both of them pulling along, but it's not going to be 3 wide quite yet. Maybe now as they start to split on either side of Townend. Oh, and they're going to make contact under braking. That is going to send Briggs very wide. Same thing with Rodriguez. And suddenly Townend has clear track in front of him. He runs away. Here comes Kerry Brooks into second.
Oh, 3 wide again, and Townend trying to maintain this, because this could give him an opportunity to run away with this race lead. Briggs on the inside doesn't want to give it up. He's going to make contact with Rodriguez. Oh, he just about avoids it. Incredible. Rodriguez to second. Briggs still on the inside, and he'll take third. Brooks still can't quite get involved, and Jesse Lyon is now very much a part of this battle as well.
Kerry managed to hold that P2 for oh so short of a time, but he's not given up yet. They are still nose to tail, all in the top 5, with Townend maybe having the biggest gap over them at this stage at about half a second. And there we see on the replay just how frantic it was. Jesse Lyon from 5th place has a front row seat to the action.
He does. And I don't think he has any intention of getting involved in it at the moment, to be honest. He's just going to sit here and wait. Don't forget, while this is going on, by the way, the conditions are only getting drier. The only reason Jesse Lyon's got his windscreen wiper on at the moment is because at the high speeds, he's got 4 drivers spray going up in front of him. So this is constantly getting drier, and they're going to have to worry about tyre temperatures before long, unless it rains soon, which it doesn't look like doing in the immediate future.
It does look like there are places where it feels like a dry line is forming, at least visibly. It seems to be in spots, but we're still seeing spray coming up, so there's some moisture as we once again go side by side. Rodriguez this time will have the outside and a nose ahead. Townend gets overtaken as Briggs now has a huge head of steam on both of them. Under braking, though, is he going to get it woed up? And that's going to force both drivers wide, and it's a repeat of last time. The car inside has the better line. Townend back to the front.
Oh, Rodriguez going to get boxed in here. Oh, and there's contact. That was very near disaster as Townend defends the inside line here. Briggs and Rodriguez try his outside into turn 1. Rodriguez brakes late again. It's almost like a replay again with Townend involved this time. He just about stays on the circuit again. And Bryce Rodriguez leads this race again, although Townend still stays there. Here comes Briggs on the inside as well. Brooks and Lyon are still trying not to get involved. This is extraordinary. The most unbelievable 17 minutes of racing we've seen for quite a long time in this series.
Especially for the pro class, too. And they're still about 9 seconds ahead of the next group. They're still outpacing those cars behind them, even with all this back and forth. Briggs back up to P2. He hasn't been leading for a bit here, though he did for the early laps. Can he catch up to Rodriguez? It does seem like whoever is in the lead is a sitting duck down the back straight, but you can make up for it in the braking to the final turn.
Yeah, and Rodriguez has got the biggest gap that any leader has had for a few laps now, so let's see if it really is just about being in the lead and sort of having a gap of less than a second or so, or whether you can do something to negate that disadvantage, which it seems to be leading this field. This is battles further back, by the way. The group for 10th place, unfortunately, has disintegrated a bit. And as you say, despite the battling for the leaders, these guys are continuing to get further away from the race lead back here in 10th or so.
Townend seems to have dropped off significantly there. He's now fighting with Brooks, who gets to the inside. Briggs has a bit of a run, but not enough of one as the battle for third goes wheel to wheel into the final turn. It's Townend who comes out ahead between the pair of them, and for the first time in a long time, they're actually single file off that turn.
I don't know how many laps it's been, but it's been a few. You can see them every time as well when they pull onto the front straight, and just going to that darker, wetter patch on the right-hand side as we look at it. Oh, as Brooks misses his braking point completely. He nearly hits Townend, and that's the first mistake from this front 5. There's the first error. It's taken us nearly 20 minutes of close quarters battling to get it. But Kerry Brooks makes a mistake into turn 1, and he's out the group.
He might still be able to catch up, but it's going to take a Herculean effort, about 1.3 seconds. depends on how well they play up in front of him. Briggs is now caught up to Rodriguez. As here we'll see what happened to Kerry Brooks. A bit strange. Yeah, because he was on the dry line, unless he just was caught out by the car moving back and forth.
It's very weird, isn't it? Because he will have been using that braking line and braking board at every opportunity so far in this race, with the conditions staying roughly the same. So not sure why he's suddenly gone so far missed the braking zone there, but anyway, he's down to 5th. Oh, and over the curves and in the wetter portions of the circuit there for Briggs. That might just prevent him from having an opportunity to pass Rodriguez, who is starting to stretch out this group. You can see Townend struggling to keep with the pace at the moment.
And I believe we could see a little bit of haze in the background there. You can see on the bottom screen with Grado in P8 there, just beyond the back straightaway. It looks like there's quite a bit of rain potentially coming. Bryce Rodriguez still ahead of Briggs that time down the back straightaway, but look at how close Thomas is. Does he want to try it maybe into turn 1? Defensive move from Bryce, trying to maybe also pick up some of that moisture as they weave their way back to driver's right down into turn 1. Bryce stays ahead, but a cut back from Briggs could give him the spot down into turn 2. He's on the wrong side of the track, but he finds more of that grip on that drier line. Now down into turn 3, powers around the outside, and he's got the spot.
Oh, you don't see very many moves around the outside of 3 like that, and he's done it. Thomas Briggs into the lead. Bryce Rodriguez looks up the inside, tries to respond, but can't, and Briggs will now comfortably get away with this, although the back straight will be coming up again very soon, and surely he'll be re-overtaken. Contact again as well. Rodriguez definitely faster through these couple of corners.
What I'm seeing, they might see predictions of rain within about a half an hour here. That could be towards the end of the race, which will certainly be fascinating. Terrence Tong gets tipped around, and I think that may have been Kevin Jokel, who has been given a black flag.
I think that's the thing. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! Dear me, that wasn't textbook, but Terrence Tong back on the circuit. Logan Gred has also spun, and that's at the hands of Matthew Siddall, who's now 10th. I wonder whether there may be a steward's decision coming through on that one pretty soon as well.
Ooh. Now it was our leader's turn to give us a bit of a fright as they made contact at all of about 170 miles an hour on wet track under braking. We've seen Briggs do this before, where he goes a little bit deep into the corner. Rodriguez cuts back underneath him. Will it work this time? I don't think it will, as Briggs has more grip coming off.
And he will get through Thomas Briggs rather nicely, in fact. And Blake Townend will gain on both of them here. Looks for a bit of wet moisture to get his tyres cool. Oh, and Rodriguez goes for the cutback this time. Instead of hanging around the outside like he has done before, he's going to do what Briggs did to him only 1 lap ago, but he can't quite execute it as well.
And you were correct about Siddall. He has been given the latest black flag. He'll have to come in and serve that one, cutting back into 4 and 5. Before this gets a little bit too crazy, I want to give a mention to our sponsor, Princess Cruises, because they're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. They are nose to tail once again, coming onto the back straightaway. Who is going to wind up in the lead by the time we get to the final turn?
Well, that's I'm going to say Townend if you asking me to put my money somewhere. I know he's in 3rd at the moment, but we've seen him so often slip through on the inside of a 3-wide moment here with Briggs and Rodriguez battling the way they have done. It's clear that if you're in the lead on the back straight, you're a bit of a sitting duck here, and maybe Townend's too far back. Briggs has actually got so long to actually pull back in the slipstream and re-attack now into the final turn. Not quite long enough for that. As Rodriguez holds the inside, he will keep the lead, but how does Briggs respond with his run off the final corner? He might well have another go at turn 1.
back onto the racetrack. There's another incident point, I think, racked up with that little off that we saw there. Shows himself down to the first turn, but I don't think that was quite a serious attempt at making the move. All this fighting, well, I was going to say it has meant they left Kerry Brooks behind, but no, he's actually pitted. Interesting.
I mean, he clearly is not intending on changing tyres at any point. Might not be the worst idea, but also they're not losing that much time, really, these guys, battling, if you can believe it. And he's going to end up in a lot of traffic, so I'm not sure that is the best idea, although he has already been off, of course. And he is up on the jacks. Now, he thinks a tyre change to the dries will be beneficial, but if it's going to rain again later, as we're assuming it will, then, I mean, he'll be toast.
I can confirm he's showing as having put dries on. But yeah, I agree. If he hasn't been watching his radar, it's not going to be good news. Now, granted, he could make up a lot of time if the track is now set for dries and the wet tires are just going to be too slow. But I don't think we're at that point.
I mean, we might be, but I think the bigger concern actually for these guys is the wet tires going off and almost sort of shredding through their tread in these dry conditions, so they're effectively almost like dries when the rain starts to fall again. That's the bigger concern. That's partly why you see so much weaving around. It's not all track position battling. It's a little bit to cool the tyres down as well, because on this occasion they're not side by side and they're still weaving around all over the place. Just trying to cool tyres down a little bit, and you know, that's the bigger concern for me. I reckon he will be quicker on dries at this stage, but it's just not going to pay out later. That's the problem for him. And just to give some context, by the way, we know that it is going to rain in all four classes of the Aragon round in PCA this season, but we just don't know when and how strong. That's or at least pre-race, we don't know when and how strong.
Exactly. We have the radar that the drivers can see as well, and that's predictions, but we don't know down to the exact minute of when things exactly are going to happen out there. Now, Kerry Brooks emerged in 20th, but like you said, he's going to have to pass a few cars as we check out Arthur Chan once again. So he's going to have to go onto those wet lines from here and there in those slicks to make some of those overtakes. Chan managing to bring himself up into 7th with that move over Patterson.
Nicely done. So 7th position for Arthur Chan. Is a good return, I think. He's made up quite a few positions, and don't forget he's 3rd in the championship as well, trying to keep pace with Townend and Rodriguez, although that is pretty difficult. As things stand, by the way, if the race were to finish right now, Rodriguez would wrestle the championship lead back again after losing it last week, or at least losing his advantage over Townend last week. He would now be ahead by 20 points if the race were to finish as it is.
On board with number 50 of Chan as we watch him try to chase after Greg Arado, and man, you can hear how much he is having to feather that throttle coming around Marc Marquez and onto the back straightaway. We jump back up to our leaders. Rodriguez ahead of Briggs, ahead of Townend, and Jesse Lyons still holding on 4th.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he needs to do. Although, you know, he can't afford for this race to only be really heavy rain for the last 10 minutes or so. In that case, he's going to have to start thinking about this race a little bit differently, but I think he is waiting for the real wet conditions. I think what we've witnessed actually in the first half an hour for Jesse Line is him sort of getting used to these conditions, in terms of he's not actually practiced these conditions very much, I don't think, but he looked like a driver to me who'd practiced the very heavy wet weather a lot over the course of the last 2 weeks. So I think the reason we've seen him increase his speed is because effectively we're watching his practice in the race, and he's going to come to the fore when it really starts to rain later.
You make a good point. Yeah, it's so different just getting the wet line down, but then wet to dry has its own share of difficulties trying to suss out throughout the race. Logan Grotto is now into pit lane, so I'm not seeing him go up on the jacks, though. He seems to be content to stay on the wets and on the same tires too. That's going to be the other interesting thing. How torn up are they if we get that other rain in the final stages of the race? Is Briggs really pushing it there and drifting a little wide coming around Marquez?
Yeah, don't forget that when we are looking at these pit stops, by the way, even if there is a tyre change, you won't see them go up on the jacks immediately, because you don't do fuel and tyres at the same time in a Porsche Cup car. So you do have to wait a little bit of time. That's why we saw a 32-second pit stop from Kerry Brooks, who, by the way, last time round set the fastest lap of this race. by 1.5 seconds, 2.5 seconds rather. So that is only going to get further extended. These guys are also setting personal bests and fastest laps of the race so far, but they're losing 2.5 seconds a lap. That will be a problem. However, even at 3 seconds a lap, it would take Kerry Brooks 16 laps to catch these guys.
Exactly. However, I think the thing he needs to worry about is it's more like when he needs a second stop, because I can't imagine if we're going to get the rain that I'm seeing the radar showing that he'll be able to stay on these dries. He's going to hope that it offsets that extra pit stop that he's going to have to make, as Rich Meekler is the latest to have put on dry tires. Thomas Isabel, who we're following, is looking for his stall. I'm curious if he's going to follow suit or if he'll try and stay on the wets or maybe get new wets.
Yeah, that might be a call, to be honest, because just wait, hold on a second. About 10 seconds of fuel. There you go. So just have to wait for the 10 seconds of fuel or so, and then we'll see whether there's... And there you go, dry tyres. You see the tread disappearing. It will be dry tyres. I think a better call, to be honest, is some new wets, because I think some of the... obviously when the rain falls, not yet, because these tyres are going to be pretty shredded now. You can see Rodriguez is actually starting to pull a bit of a gap on Briggs and Townend and Lyon, because he's just seemingly managed them a little bit better over the course of these last few minutes.
Brooks went another second faster now that he's got real heat in these tires too. Minkler, for some reason, given a black flag. I wonder if maybe he sped on his way into pit lane, which I didn't notice him having one earlier, but it appears that he's going to have to serve that, unfortunately, and that will certainly hurt. But Kerry Brooks continues to eat away at our leaders. There is Minkler heading out of pit lane. And has a bit of an issue on his way out.
Yeah, it's just spinning up the rears on dry tyres, isn't it, over the pit exit, because nobody's driving through the pit exit. It's still very wet there. You see the darkness of it compared to the racetrack. That will obviously get better, but not very much better, because you don't drive through the pit lane very often. So it's a real abrupt welcome to the racetrack again when you put those dry tyres on and you spin up immediately. Now we've got lap traffic as well for these leaders. That is Sylvester Canny, who has gone back in and back out again on wet tyres again.
And from what I can see, the radar is predicting somewhere in the realm of about 10 to 15 minutes before the next band of rain is going to be coming through. So those that are going to gut it out on those wets, if they can keep them cool enough, that might pay off. But man, this is indeed a tough one, not just from driving conditions, but strategy calls. How do you manage this?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. This is why going on those dry tyres at the beginning was not a bad call at all. Unfortunately for Brett Holmes, it was just that little bit too wet. But if he could survive that early point with dry tyres, staying in touch with the others, he wouldn't have had to come in then before seeing the benefits of those dry tyres. Racing past some of those guys on wets and then coming in when it starts to rain and you're nearly out of fuel. That would have worked, but unfortunately for Holmes and everybody else who wanted to think about that, it was just a little bit too wet as Blake Townend comes down the inside. He wants to lead the chase now of Bryce Rodriguez, who's got a second's lead.
Yeah, this is about the biggest gap we've seen for the lead all race long. Townend might find himself overtaken once again as Briggs gets a great run off that final turn. Coming down into T1, he's got the inside. He's going to outbrake Townend and put Thomas back up into P2. Behind them, Jesse Lyon, that is not the red car. He's the white car that is dropping back as he had another mistake that turn one. That is the lapped car of Canny that you mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah, he is really struggling with those tyres. It's Jesse Lyon, and that's probably why Kerry Brooks came in as well, where he thought, well, if I stay out here, then I'm only going to get fried with these very, very hot, wet tyres. Might as well try something different. And last time round he was in the 39s. That was 3.2 seconds quicker than the best lap from Bryce Rodriguez last time round. But again, as I said earlier, he still needs he'd need another 14 laps at this pace to catch up to Rodriguez. Now, there would be that amount of time remaining in the race, but that assumes conditions are going to stay the same to the end, and things have noticeably become quite a lot more gloomy over the course of this lap.
Indeed they have. I'm checking, and yeah, I can see the clouds starting to approach the racetrack and cover at least part of it. So when will we see that precipitation start to come down? as we got a battle farther back. We've been so focused on the leaders for much of this. There is great battling up and down. It's been a real cracker of a race up at the front.
It's been a really large group further back in this midfield, and yeah, on any other day we'd be focusing on this group quite a lot, but unfortunately for the... Oh, as Briggs goes very wide through the final corner, it just doesn't settle down, does it, in that front group. Blake Townend now goes through into that position, as at the bottom of the screen, Jokel, it looks like it's raining. Is it raining here though? I can't see the rain from the off-board shots, but definitely from that on-board I can see a little bit of rain starting to fall.
Yeah, it looks like it may be on this side of the track, and we can start to see some of that spray off the tires. So yeah, I think it is only partially wet, and now we're starting to see a few more drops on the camera.
So yeah, just as he got past, and there was a difference where you saw with cloud cover, around about just after turn 11 on the back straight, you started to see, I mean, look at this, it's sunny down here, but Briggs just going too wide and really overheated with those wet tyres now. But at this part of the circuit, as they come through, it is a lot wetter over to the, well, I'm not sure if it is geographically correct, but I'm going to call it the west side of the circuit. Yeah, I think it is geographically as well. Looks a little bit wetter down here. It looks like the rain hasn't quite made its way over to the eastern part of the circuit. This facility is quite long and thin, really, so it is possible for it to be raining on one side, not the other.
And you're correct, yeah, that is the west side, that it is raining right now, but it's working its way across the track. Something happened to Katrowski here. Oh, he got tipped at the fastest part of the circuit. That could have been a worse hit. I'm not actually seeing all that much damage, surprisingly, but he has lost a lot of time.
Yeah, he did come in, though. Did he initially lose? I'm just listening here. Oh, no, you're right. It was the contact. I was just
wondering it's because they
whether
were braking at different times.
I was just wondering whether he actually lost that himself first and then just spun across the front of Henson, but no, you're right, he was tipped there straight away. So unfortunately into the wall, Katrowski, and I'd say not much damage, but enough to see him in pit lane anyway.
It looks like it's really coming down in some spots now. We've been seeing some camera shots where it's pretty heavy rainfall. How do you make this call? Do you try and go a little bit earlier? I mean, I would if I was inside Townend's car right now.
Well, I think you've just got to stick it out at the moment. I'm not entirely sure what this does to the field game, to be honest, because in terms of the tyre change now, they've just about survived that dry period with the wet tyres, these guys at the front. So they are going to stay on the same tyres to the end now, I think, even though they're going to be pretty fried. The question now is when do they come in for fuel? And to be honest, in that school of thinking, as Kerry Brooks comes in now, maybe now is the right time, because if anything, the tyres at this stage would be just slightly too warm. The temperature was rising as well into the mid-20s Celsius, that sort of mid-70s towards the high 70s it was getting, and that obviously that's going to go away now. But the tyre temperatures maybe will just be a little bit too high, so maybe now is not the worst moment to do it. Having said that, that will give you a high fuel load for the remainder of the race, and staying out there until you run it dry as normal in a normal dry race will still be advantage as far as car weight is concerned.
You can see so much more spray now under the darkness of the clouds. Rodriguez continues to lead, currently at about a second and a half over Blake Townend. And coming up on traffic, that's Chris Braun just in front of him. And Chris is going to pull off to the side. Doesn't think he wants to try and get himself involved in this race, as he gives a nice little lift and allows Rodriguez by.
And we'll probably do the same to Townend and Briggs in a moment. Briggs, all of a sudden, in these slightly wetter conditions, is going a little bit faster. And just watch out for Jesse Lyon as well. Last time round at 49.3, but that's not representative of what he was doing in qualifying. There was only two drivers within a second of him, by the way, in qualifying. So in the really heavy rain, if we're going to get that in the last 15 minutes or so, expect Lyon to advance, unless he's taking too much out of his tyres in the dry, which is entirely possible.
And another thing worth taking into account, remember Logan Grotto, he stayed on the same wet tire, so he is a good guinea pig out there as well to see if it is worth trying to hold on to these same tires, and if it'll get you there to the end. And his last lap was a 51.2, Rodriguez with a 48.9. So we'll see as we watch the cut back here, and Townend able to get ahead of the lapped car. Briggs now has that task.
And we will do on the back straight here pretty easily. Yeah, I mean, remember, it's, of course, kind of helpful to look at Logan Grado, but also his best lap is 2 seconds slower than Bryce Rodriguez is nearly. So effectively add 2 seconds as a normal. If you know, we want to be really nerdy about this, we can add 2 seconds to a normal Rodriguez time and sort of match them up against one another. In that case, they are pretty similar, with maybe a second or so slower for Grado. I think at this stage it might just be best to stay out there as Rodriguez really starts to struggle towards the end of this lap. This is not traffic. This is on pure driving at the moment, where this gap has come less than a second.
Rich Minkler, who is still showing his on dries, is beginning to regret his decision, because I can tell you that we did see Kerry Brooks come back in and take wets. He's now in 15th position. This is on board with David Fernandez. And is Fernandez on the dries or wets? No, he's on the wets.
He looks like a man on dries, doesn't he? The way he skates off there. Unless this is pre-pit stop we've just seen, but yeah. Some drivers now, I mean, we're bound to see this throughout the field now. This is Tom Sisselveld, who's just going to clumsily get into the side of a car around the outside there. I think there's going to be a lot of drivers who look like they're on dries even when they're not, because A, these conditions are horrific, and you know, the aquaplaning is quite bad in iRacing, although it's not as bad as when Raven was initially introduced, where it was complete carnage. It's still pretty bad and difficult conditions, and B, these are very old tyres to be dealing with, and of course people aren't very used to wet conditions, so this is going to be a treacherous last 20 minutes.
On board with Briggs, looking ahead at Townend now. Coming onto the back straight away, down through turn 11. And look at the visibility. I mean, you can see the rain light. That's about it.
Good job there are rain lights as well. A very long tail light as well. You see Bryce Rodriguez talking. Wonder what that's about. Strategy or how he's going to defend these two. Because he's got a big job at the moment and seems to be losing time to these two as well. Briggs, too hesitant, or indeed hesitant for good reason. Down to the final corner. Rodriguez goes a bit wide again. Townend really good through this last corner, by the way. Maybe not in terms of the exit, but through the middle he's very, very good. And he is right on the back of Rodriguez now, who's feeling the pressure.
Coming down the main straight, still kind of going off of what was the drier line, but surely that is quite wet in comparison. They all three make it through turn 1. And if you're enjoying all the moisture, well, we would suggest that you check out Princess Cruises, maybe get around a little bit more water, because they are the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So, the other thing I'm curious about, let me check the radar real quick. Looks like we're about halfway through this band of precipitation, and it's saying maybe between 2:15 and 2:30 p.m. in sim time, it might go away, and we are at 2:14 in sim time. So that's the other question. Now, it's not going to dry immediately, Ewan, so I don't think waiting to put the dries on would necessarily help that much, but it does kind of affect the decisions, I'm sure.
And I think, you know, I don't think actually that the fuel will actually allow them to go as long as it would be required for them to get to dries. I mean, it took us nearly half an hour for us to get to a point where dries were usable in this race here. Seemingly is not a circuit that dries very quickly. I'm not sure if there's any science behind this, but it's a very dusty part of the world. It's in some parts of Spain, because it is so barren and so dry and so hot. It can get very, very dusty on tarmac sometimes, and that can make circuits a bit more slippery, even when they're not very wet. I don't know if that's scientific. That's just a feeling that I've got. It might be the case at this circuit, but it took a very, very long time to dry, and that's the best theory I've got at the moment.
as you see Rodriguez, though, go very wide at turn one. That's allowed Townend to catch him up a fair number of seconds here. And Briggs still hasn't completely caught up, but he's going to be watching this with great interest as these three are now in a close battle. And Jesse Lyon has elected to pit now with about 16 minutes to go. One thing to consider on the fuel, remember this is in wet weather, so that's going to slow the cars down. They use less fuel, and I don't believe they've changed the maximum fuel tanks for this race specifically. So they should theoretically be able to go pretty darn far.
Yeah, I mean, now you say it, maybe even all the way, but that would surprise me. We'll see, but as you say, they will definitely be burning less fuel and they'll be doing less distance as well, because obviously they're slower in the wet weather. And by the way, at the moment, the front guys are about 10 seconds off their best lap time. So the great thing about iRacing is that in some other simulators and games or whatever, you see two types of weather, either dry or wet, and there's not much difference between the two. But in iRacing, there is a real scale to this wet weather. Upwards of 10 seconds, we've seen the difference just in this race.
Absolutely, yeah. And each section of track has, different amounts of moisture depending on how much has hit it, how well it drains, how much the cars have run over it, or they go completely off like this with Rodriguez once again making a mistake. This time Townend is there to pick up the pieces, and he is not only taking the lead, but giving it back up as he pits in.
Wow. This is a big call now. Blake Townend coming into the pit lane at a crucial point in this race, even when he had the opportunity to get out front in clean air. That is very, very interesting. Jesse Lyon, by the way, 22.8 seconds in the box. That seeming suggests to me that he did take some tyres, because he wouldn't have needed that much fuel, 22 seconds worth of fuel.
Yeah, and I don't know why you would only take 2 tires here, though, so that is a bit of a strange call. Unless he made a mistake and forgot to uncheck the tires. He does still have the wets on, from what I can see. In the meantime, Blake Townend is back out, and if I've seen this right, he's actually still in third.
Yeah, he is, yeah. Well, that's quite extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, even despite the battling we've seen, it's been unbelievable pace at the front of the race. And the other guys in this race were thinking, what can we do to get anywhere near these guys? Because Rodriguez, Briggs and Townend, and to a lesser extent earlier, Jesse Lyon and Kerry Brooks as well, showing unbelievable speed, even during their battle, which is just amazing. As this rain seems to lighten up and Briggs loses time. There's Lyon. He is a long way behind Blake Townend, though, with not very long to go. In fact, over 30 seconds his gap now.
Yeah, and as far as Kerry Brooks and his strategy went, to give you an idea, there is roughly a minute between himself and Blake Townend. So I don't think we could say this was the right call at this stage.
No, certainly not. I mean, again, worth a risk, I suppose. But, yeah, not the right call. Oh, as Briggs is now really starting to struggle. You wonder whether his tyres are completely shot now, and it might be worth coming in. Rodriguez is in, so is Briggs. Where is Townend going to be in relation to them?
Man, and what is Townend's driving going to be like too? Because as we know, he did not take tires, should still be on the same wets. Let's see what Townend looks like coming into the corner here. As he manages to keep it on the track. So maybe it's just down to driver error, not so much the condition of the tires. Meanwhile, Briggs is still stationary. Rodriguez is still stationary. Townend is coming up the first corner. Looks like Thomas is just heading out as Rodriguez is the first one to leave, and he's going to be out ahead.
Well, he's got a long way around turn 2, though. It's going to be first, though, just about. Blake Townend less than a second behind, and he seems to be in the rhythm at the moment. It's doing well, and Rodriguez goes right through turn 3. That will gift a couple of attempts to Townend immediately here as he tries to chase down his championship rival for the race lead.
12 minutes on very old wets for both Rodriguez, Townend, and Briggs up at the front, but they've got somewhere in the realm of about 15 seconds to the next nearest car. Theoretically, this is a straight fight between these three.
And in the championship, by the way, if it were to end right now, Rodriguez and Briggs would be in a... Rodriguez and Townend, sorry, would be in a tie. They would have had exactly the same 5 results this season, on different nights, obviously, and they would be leading by over 100 points over the rest of the field. But what an extraordinary season. With 2 rounds to go, they would be dead even.
Wow, this is going to get fun then. This could be a very decisive race if they are that closely matched all around on board with Briggs as we look up through, and there we can start to see some sunshine peeking out through the edge of the clouds. Will that start to dry it up, and how quickly, as we only have 11 minutes left? A little bit of a look out of the spray from Townend on Rodriguez. I think that is mostly just for visibility. Doubt he's going to be close enough for a move.
Yeah, he's not close enough for a move there, but you can see they're all searching for the slightly drier line on the way in there because it is so wet. Briggs slides out in the background. He is struggling in these conditions, and Townend is on the ascendancy. Look at that. He races through into the lead.
Little bit of a mistake from the 24. That gives up the top spot. Blake is going to defend coming down into turn 1. He'll hold on to it for now. Briggs still needs to play catch-up. He's not quite using this to his advantage at this stage. Rodriguez, though, very much on the aggression after getting overtaken. He is right behind that 5.75.
Yeah, and as I say, this is crucial in terms of the championship because Rodriguez could see his deficit to Townend either double or he could pull it tied if he wins. So this is massive and could be massive by the time we end the season at the end of November, start of December. Could be massive for the title as the rain is starting to come in and out. As you say, the sun's starting to poke through. This is only going to get drier from here and in, and I do feel like that does favour Rodriguez a bit.
Yep, we are at the end of the band of precipitation. It is still over the eastern side of the track, so they are out of that area now. Still, the water obviously doesn't completely disappear immediately here, so they'll be able to use that moisture for those wet tires pretty well. However, look at the lap traffic starting to show up in front of them. That could play a factor.
Yeah, it very much could. At the moment, we've got still 19 on the lead lap, but Kevin Jokel and Sylvester Canny are not that far behind. Not that far ahead, rather, of these leaders. And you might even see them on some of the longer shots down the straights here, as Townend leads them in towards the final corner again. He leads comfortable-ish on the way into the final turn. If this is the last lap, he'll be comfortable with that margin as Rodriguez brakes too late, goes a little bit too wide, not as wide as Briggs though. Oh my word, that's late.
I think a lapped car as well. I think that was Chris Brown who also went wide. What a save from Briggs. I don't think we've seen a car that sideways yet and come out away with it. Thomas Briggs stays in third, but only just.
That is just disgusting, isn't it? I mean, how has he saved that in the first place? And why is the car out that far sideways? That is just disgraceful. I don't know how he saved it. Oh, and Townend, just a bit of traffic. And here comes Rodriguez through the middle into the lead.
Capitalizes at just the right moment, splitting the middle between them. But it's deep from Rodriguez coming into turn 5. Looks like not deep enough. Townend unable to try and cut back underneath him. Now he's got to try and retake that spot. 8 minutes left to go with a track that looks like it's going to be drying quickly.
Yeah, it does. It's a little bit warmer than it was earlier, to the tune of 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. So it is going to dry maybe that slight bit faster this time round, but it won't be good enough for dries, of course, by the end, and nobody would dream of pitting at this stage in the race anyway. Within the last 8 minutes, it's just fighting with what you got. This is just ridiculous from Thomas Briggs.
Give it some style points for the 22. Unfortunately, all it will net him is a bit of champagne on the bottom step of the podium, though, as we come back onto the back straightaway. The gap is about 0.3 of a second. What's it going to look like when they get to the brake zone? And who can woe it up in time? Because we've seen multiple drivers get a little bit over-ambitious and back out to the racing lane. Oh, weaving across the track now. Townend unsure which way to take this, but they both come in shallow.
Yeah, I think that line is getting quite narrow into the final corner because nobody's running out through the middle when it was really, really wet. It is still very wet when they get to the braking zone on the outside there, so that could make things difficult. on the last lap, they will probably go for it, I suppose, but before then, it's going to be very tricky. Townend constantly getting the better run out the final corner, which is a turn he's better at, I think, than anybody else in this field. He seems to have shown that so far. He continues to put the pressure, though, on Rodriguez. Wasn't able to get past this time. It's just under 7 minutes to go. There will be 4 laps left, including the one that we've just started.
And the win is still very much up in the air. A little bit wider entry for Townend, but also wide at the apex. As, behind them, Briggs has trouble trying to lap. That was Chad Henson, who had just finished his pit stop and is back out.
So traffic is going to be a continuing story here. Sylvester Canning might be the last one they have to overtake, though, unless they're going to come across Brett Holmes or Thomas Isabel for some other reason to go multiple laps down, but that should be the last of it now. Briggs having to make these aggressive moves to stay with the leaders, but he's just a frustrating distance behind right now.
There was slight contact between them, but it looked like a no harm, no foul situation between the pair of them as they were each able to carry on. So we come back to this long backstretch. Just has been such an important part of the track here all race long, but for different reasons at different times. Now it mostly seems to be down to who can break deeper and make the corner. While the slipstream does still have an effect, it's not going to have one this time because Townend was just a little too far back. Yeah,
this time round he was. Again, he just rotates the car better through this final corner. And he gets in close with Rodriguez again out of the final. Look at the way he gains there. Just needs to be that little bit closer and he'll have a go at turn 1 next time. He has a peak there, but no chance just for the moment. Just over 5 minutes to go, so will indeed be 3 laps remaining in this race, including the one that they've just begun. Because that's getting ticked off quicker and quicker as they go along. They're now just 7 seconds off their best. At worst, it was 10 or 11 seconds off their best when the rain was really coming down.
Yeah, they went 2 seconds faster that last lap. So, yeah, the track is very much getting quicker. Waltman in a nice little side-by-side battle with Patterson. Patterson decides to brake a little early, and he's going to allow Jonathan to take P8.
Very nicely done from Jonathan Waltman, who will have to keep that in the next 5 minutes of this race. As will Bryce Rodriguez with this race lead at the moment. This is the all-important couple of corners that in the last couple of laps Bryce Rodriguez has nailed through turn 9 initially, but turn 10, which becomes the proper corner in these wet weather conditions, even when drying like this. See the different lines being taken. Rodriguez sort of angling it off a little bit more, and look at the run that he gets.
And let's stick with this, but I want to give a nod to Waltman. He's up 14 spots from where he started, second to last on the field and running in 8th place. A phenomenal race from the 707. I think just a little too far back from Blake, unfortunately. He was slightly closer this time, but not close enough. That's valuable information from Bryce Rodriguez, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Townend's got it wrong! And is that the race? Is that the race with 3.5 minutes to go? Thomas Briggs is going to get close to second as well, as Blake Townend gets the braking for the final corner wrong. He might have just gifted his championship rival a victory here tonight.
Wow. Briggs, now knowing that the time to strike is now, is going to send it deep, maybe too deep into the corner. Townend cuts back. Both of them get on the throttle as soon as they can. They're going to make contact. Townend is going to spin, and Rodriguez will have the spot.
Unbelievable. Townend there didn't account for the fact that Briggs was on a wet puddle on the inside of that corner. He was just on that little wetter portion of the circuit on the inside. This is the initial portion. He's just gone a bit too wide on the entry to the final corner here, trying to open it out, trying to utilise the final turn to pass Rodriguez, a corner he's been so good at. And then, as they came through towards turn 1, Briggs, as he said, saw this as the time to strike. And he was correct to see it as that, but he gets it wrong in towards turn 1. He goes off the circuit, and he shouldn't have kept this place if this had carried on normally. He shouldn't have kept that, because that's not a legitimate pass for second. But he's on, and look at that there, that small wet patch. He goes straight on into the side of Townend, who didn't account for that, and he spins, and with it, he loses his championship lead.
That's a difficult call, though, because Briggs was all the way to the inside. It wasn't like he was tracking out. So I'm curious, what the stewards will think of the contact, if they'll be able to place blame on either driver. But what this has done is it's allowed Bryce Rodriguez the most breathing space he's had this entire race long, as he's about to take the white flag.
Yeah, this is the biggest lead that any leader has had, never mind just Rodriguez. Because remember, the two leaders, when it was 1 and 2, Rodriguez and Briggs, I think it was, at the time, came in together as well. So the gap has never been more than about a second or so. As they take the white flag now, Rodriguez just has to bring it home. And with it, he will bring upon himself a 20-point championship lead over Blake Townend in this topsy-turvy season. It goes twisting one way and then the other. And the championship lead is going to change hands yet again here tonight.
The irony is that it's all the wetness that made this as spicy as this race has been. This has been one of the most exciting runs we've had for the pro race, all Series 14. And Thomas Briggs looking to collect that second place. Curious what his feelings will be, considering he was maybe up in the top spot a few times and looking like he could have taken this one home. He's still struggling, as you see some slides coming through the more technical portions.
As you say, one of the most exciting races of Series 14 in any class, but I think we could go further than that. This is one of the best pro races we've ever seen in this series. And especially that battle we saw between the front five in the first 20 minutes, half an hour, was absolutely extraordinary. And the late drama here has just delivered it as well. Not quite the last lap grandstand finish that we were expecting, to be honest, after such a brilliant race up until this point. But this is going to go down as one of the best races this series has seen. And Bryce Rodriguez looks like he's going to win it.
He's got it handily within his grasp. Just a lapped car behind him, even separating himself from P2. Doesn't have to push the limits coming into the final corner like we've seen so many do and go wide. No, he is well within the boundaries. And in fact, he is going to take the checkered flag and win at a wet race in Spain.
Unbelievable, unbelievable wet race as well. I know the drivers won't be hoping for it, but I kind of hope we can have mixed conditions every week. That was fantastic. Although I do feel like the circuit played a role in it as well.
Yeah, it was a good choice to have it. The rain in Spain definitely kept us maybe a bit insane out here. As Jesse Lyon, our pole sitter, unfortunately 31 seconds behind our leader at the end. Just didn't seem to be able to back up that pole lap.
No, was very quick towards the end. New tyres definitely did give him a bit of an advantage in terms of speed, but the amount of time you lose on those tyre changes is just far, far too much. As you say, I think if it had been qualifying conditions all throughout, Lyon would have absolutely walked that race, but the fact is it was a lot more mixed and adaptable than he was able to be in that race.
Peterson up 10 with a 7th place. Waltman up 14 with his 8th place. Those are your two biggest movers in this race. Thomas Isabel, unfortunately, lost the most today. 14 down instead, a lap down from the leaders. But there's probably a number of drivers that we wouldn't normally see lapped in this pro class that wound up getting caught up because it was so difficult. So yes, they tested them, but a great many of them stood up to that test, and some came away with flying colors, others maybe not so much, as the last of the cars, Matthew Jokel, crosses the line now just behind Kadrowski here. Oh boy, that's this is going to be one to dissect for quite some time, and Bryce Rodriguez is going to spend most of that time celebrating his win here at Aragon. Thomas Briggs was second with Blake Townend in third, Jesse Lyon P4, and Arthur Chan finishing fifth. Enrico Gregorato P6 for him. Look at that, 6th place in 50 seconds behind the leader. Leif Peterson P7 with Jonathan Waltman in 8th. And then 9th goes to Michael Patterson with Kerry Brooks rounding out the top 10 after a failed strategy call. Matthew Siddall was 11th, Logan Grotto in P12, Terrence Tong 13th, and David Fernandez 14th. Kadrowski P15 for him, and Matthew Jokel last on the lead lap in 16th. Sylvester Canny in 17th was followed by Chad Henson in P18, Kevin Jokel 19th, Thomas Isabel in 20th position. And then the last few sees Chris Braun I believe potentially the only other driver to finish. Brett Holmes may have come home. I haven't been able to see if he caught the checkered flag, but Rich Winkler definitely was a DNF for this one. So, as we take a quick chat, I think first up is going to be Bryce Rodriguez, who comes away with the win, outlasted all the others through the changeable conditions. Bryce, that was stunning to watch from outside the cockpit. How high is your heart rate right now?
Pretty high. That was kind of a crazy race. No words to really describe what happened from the start to finish. It started raining, obviously, and then just a lot of side-by-side. I think I went from first to second to third to fourth, I think, a few times, and then kind of think luck played a part too in being in the right place at the right time. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy race. No lap was left boring. It was, fighting pretty much every single lap.
Now, obviously, you guys did not know what the forecast was going to be until you actually got into the session. As you took a look at that, did you know this was the strategy would play of waiting and staying on those same tires, or were you kind of feel it out once you got onto the track?
It was definitely feeling it out once I got into the session. Of course, it was a bit iffy whether it's going to be wet or dry, so I just kind of went for a setup that had a nice middle ground. I was a bit quicker in the dry, I think, than the wet. And then in terms of tires, when I was kind of lucky because when Blake was in front, I was going to see if he took tires, because if he did, I would have as well. But he didn't, so I chose not to, and somehow they lasted till the end.
Were the tires pretty difficult by the end? Because that was our big question with how long you guys were driving on a drying track. We worried that they'd been pretty chewed up.
Yeah, 100% towards 75% through. I thought that they weren't going to make it till the end. Just really, really greasy track, and really don't know. But of course, I'd rather, save time in the pit stop and not take tires. So yeah, the tires were super difficult.
Well, again, impressive job out there with all the curveballs thrown at you. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just want to give a big thank you to Mo Handsome, and we'll see you guys next week, or 2 weeks. Thank you.
So that's Bryce Rodriguez, who I believe should be tied with Blake Townend after that one. But we're going to be chatting with second place now, as I do believe Ewan has caught up with Thomas Briggs.
Absolutely. Thomas, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Congrats on a second place finish here tonight at Aragon. Let's start with the start of the race. That first 20 minutes or so. How was that? It must have been extraordinary to be a part of, because it was an unbelievable fight to watch. How was that from inside the car?
Oh, it was great. It was like speedway racing out there. The conditions were pretty tricky because of the visibility. I could not see in front of me at all. Just judging off of the tail light in front of me, but it was a lot of fun. That's how pros should go racing in this series. I think we demonstrated a lot of good racecraft out there.
Absolutely. In terms of the rest of the race, I've just been told at the end that you had 24 incident points during that race. First of all, when did you get that? Of course, 1 point away from a disqualification in this series. Did you? At what point did you get that, and how were you navigating those final moments, knowing you were a moment away from being disqualified?
Well, I didn't know, but so wow, that's spooky. But just using my bumper, that's how I race. I had to move some traffic around a couple times, so sorry to those guys. But that, and then the final turn was quite difficult. And I was getting some off tracks there a few times. I honestly, if I had taken that corner right every time, I think this race could have gone very differently. But this was anybody's race. This was as predictable as a Daytona 500.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Fair enough. I can't imagine you'll be the only one who was close to a DQ, by the way. But there you go. Congrats on navigating the race and finishing in second tonight. And thanks for chatting to us at the end.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Thomas Briggs. Second place tonight at Aragon. Didn't know. What are they doing? It pops up on the top of the screen, doesn't it? I can't believe he didn't know he was close to a DQ. But there we go.
Yeah, it's something you should probably keep track of. Blake Townend coming home in P3, although things unfortunately came down to a contact and a spin at the very end. Blake, what's your take on what happened with Thomas?
Yeah, so I saw him dive bomb in, gave him racing room, then he ran off track, and wasn't expecting him to keep it in the throttle. Perhaps maybe I could have gave extra room. But yeah, I'll let the race director decide on that, because I mean that's a bad rejoin and a dive bomb. So yeah, but we'll see. But other than that, the sim shop car was fantastic today. Just unfortunately had that one mistake at the end, and just a bummer about the back marker. That was just such bad timing, and perhaps maybe that cost me the victory. And yeah, congrats to Bryce and Thomas. That was, other than the dive bomb, I think that was probably one of the best races I've ever had racing in a competitive environment like this, and in such challenging conditions too. Just horrendous.
Yeah, that's a good point. It you know, other than just that one moment, it was fantastic watching the five of you at some cases early in the race. But how did you make the decision on when to pit? You were a lap ahead of Bryce and Thomas on that. Did you want to pit on a different lap from them, or were you kind of hoping to come in together?
Yeah, I actually probably had enough fuel to stay pit on the same lap as them, but I thought maybe they might battle, and that could open up a window for me. I was playing it safe with fuel as well. There was plenty of fuel left in the tank, so I didn't want to take too many risks, because me and Bryce are fighting for the championship, and it's just like neck and neck at the moment. So yeah, that's what I decided on as soon as he ran wide in the last corner. I thought, maybe that would be the best time to just pit.
And with 2 races to go and so little between you and the points, and the results looking so darn even, how do you tackle this last bit? Are you just going to be focusing on racing against Bryce, or do you not consider any of that?
Yeah, like my focus today was just to beat Bryce. Like Jesse had a really fantastic quali lap. I don't know how he pulled that out of the bag. Briggs is quick, Kerry's up there. Thomas, Isabel is up there at times. So, and the interesting thing is some tracks suit certain drivers, better. And so I know Solder with the very finicky chicanes can be quite problematic, especially that first one. So yeah, I think that there might be a little bit of a deficit in the championship. So got to really just ensure that I beat Bryce in both races and win.
Well, it sounds like your fan club is ready to cheer you on with at least another podium to celebrate. So congratulations and enjoy the night.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
It's Blake Townend finishing in 3rd today. And we are not done with the racing here at Aragon. We'll have more of it, but when we do get back for the pro class, it's going to be at Zolder instead. It'll be a dry race for that one, thankfully. But that is another very difficult circuit, as you can see here. That'll be November 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, though, that we do have a change in timing over here in North America. So the daylight savings will switch over the weekend if you are not taking part in that. Meanwhile, we do have racing tomorrow night, as I said, back here at Aragon for the club class. So join us on October 30th. Big thank you to Ramiro and Ewan, and thank you for tuning in to PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.